2016, following its darkest era yet, DreamWorks Animation saw another major shift, as it was acquired by NBC Universal for $3.8 billion. As a result, Jeffrey Katzenberg, one of the studio's founders and the last to still be involved with the company, was removed from his role of CEO, which was now handed to the CEO of Illumination Entertainment, Chris Meledandri. While Katzenberg would initially remain with the studio as head of DreamWorks New Media, he would soon leave the company altogether. Under Meledandri's watch, DreamWorks now shifted its focus to new IP franchising that Universal could utilize in both merchandising and theme parks, and the era spawned such lucrative franchises as Trolls, Boss Baby, Abominable, and The Bad Guys. However, Universal still wanted to keep legacy characters alive in new productions, with installments from the How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda, Spirit, and Croods franchises also following. Most importantly, however, Meledandri was tasked with revamping the now dormant Shrek franchise, with the newest installment, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, seeing release in 2022. While the output here was mostly mixed in its reception, new managements, creative overhauls, and recent successes leave this as an era which looks to pave the way for a possible DreamWorks renaissance. In this video, we'll look at DreamWorks Animation's new era, spanning the studio's 12 features between 2016 and 2022. I'll break down each of the movies as I rank them in order of my own personal preference from least to most favourite. At that, this is my ranking of DreamWorks Animation's 4th era. Kicking us off at number 12, The Boss Baby. While there are some interesting ideas explored, this premise, focused on sibling rivalry, could have been executed better. What we got was an insanely bizarre and at times problematic story. Instead of playing on its potential heart, the movie offers an unrelenting assault of bottom-of-the-barrel vulgarity and potty gags, all of which fall completely flat for even I, a connoisseur of a good fart joke. There's a lot of incredibly weird stuff going on here too, which tries to guise itself as imaginative but is simply pure cringe. How anyone thought this was a good idea, I don't know. Nor do I know how an entire franchise spawned from it. 11. Spirit Untamed. A spin-off of the Netflix series Spirit Riding Free, Untamed was animated by an outsourced production house that produces much of DreamWorks' television productions, and was likewise given an incredibly small budget. As a result, everything about Untamed screams cheap. Animation is rough, plasticky, and lifeless. The story is dull and boring, characters are uninteresting, and even vocal performances are lacking. Even worse, it lacks the imagination and technical merits of the original movie. Granted, it does have an incredibly narrow audience, that is, very young girls, and for them I'm sure it works. It is a charming and innocent flick with great messages. I'm just shocked it wasn't released direct to TV. 10. The Boss Baby, Family Business. Marginally better than the first, Family Business attempts to expand this weird and wacky world in new directions. There's bigger adventure, wilder ideas, slightly more depth, and significantly more heart, as family dynamics are explored on a grander, more emotional level. However, it still suffers all the issues of the first. Behind the smokescreen, it's dumb, uninteresting, unappealing, and lazy, making little to no effort to smarten up the humour or tell a more intelligent story. Extra points for Jeff Goldblum's insane supervillain Dr. Armstrong, and a strong display of animated mastery. I have nothing more to say on this franchise. I just hope DreamWorks spares us from a fully fledged trilogy. 9. Trolls World Tour. After enjoying the first Trolls way more than expected, I was more hopeful about its follow-up. Unfortunately, World Tour trades the quirky, unique fun of the first for an incredibly formulaic, less ambitious adventure, making for something we've seen a million times before. While it sports fantastic messages of equality and tolerance, it's incredibly preachy and heavy-handed in its approach. Some of its symbology, rock music evil, pop music good, feels so insane insanely outdated, it's laughable. Music is less enjoyable than the first, featuring a non-stop barrage of annoying pop hits that makes you want to cheer on the bad rock dudes. Despite this, it's just as gorgeous visually and just as innocently charming. 8. Abominable. A cute and charming little flick with a gigantic heart and beautiful messages, which showcases gorgeous animation, vivacious colours and impressive designs. Unfortunately, Abominable aims itself to a much younger audience than most DreamWorks fare, offering very little for older audiences to really love. It's easily one of DreamWorks' most formulaic, generic and surface level features, but that said, it's such an entirely innocent and harmless film with a sweet story and delightful characters that none of this really matters. It is an enjoyable movie, but it's not set to leave a hugely lasting impression on me. 7. Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. Now talk about potty humour that actually works. Entirely built around gross, crude and crass jokes, Captain Underpants is totally dumb but also curiously clever. Encapsulating the super frenzied, hyperactive imagination of a child, the film puts a fantastic spin on the superhero genre from the perspective of a kid. No, this isn't the most ingenious of satires, but it offers up terrific parody, great subversion and enormous laughs. Moving a mile a minute, sporting chaotic animation and unrelenting for its entire runtime, Captain Underpants is as over the top and feverish as its source material, taking you on one of the loopiest rides in animation history. 6. Trolls. I admit I went into this one a bit like Branch. Someone with a disdain for sugar pop and jukebox musicals, I expected to hate it. However, also like Branch, I quickly found myself won over by its sickly sweet atmosphere and over-the-top, vibrantly effervescent characters and story, joyfully riding with it on a sugar high until the end. While the music didn't really do it for me and the characters are frequently annoying, it all has such a wonderfully positive, optimistic and happy heart that it's almost impossible to dislike. Visuals are stunning, with dynamic colours and textures and a gorgeously unique mix between stop-motion style animation and felt design transition sequences. There's also a lot of great humour here too, and the story is surprisingly delightful, with plenty of exhilarating sequences and deeply touching moments. 5. Croods 2. A New Age. It would have been easy for Croods 2 to simply retread everything already done in the first, and I was expecting it to. Thankfully, it finds new directions to move in, tackling human evolution and finding the Croods in an era where they're suddenly the inferior species. This, of course, opens up plenty of new tension and challenge for our characters, who are now up against the aptly named Betterments. Plenty of new opportunities for comedy and fresh gags arrive from this too, and when the movie reaches its third act, tons of high-stakes action unfolds from the narrative. Naturally, it somehow manages to outdo its predecessor in every single way. 4. Kung Fu Panda 3. While a slight step down from the previous two, it still manages to be a fantastic installment, which continues the exploration of Po's backstory beautifully and adds a series of sweet action set pieces to the series. The humour, which took a backseat in 2, is also back in full force, with a decent number of laughs. However, the movie slightly struggles to juggle the humour of the first with the dramatics of the second, not quite striking the perfect balance. Unfortunately, there's very little new here, with the novelty having worn off a touch. However, it does have the best finale of the series, with an exciting, stunning, and satisfying trilogy conclusion. 3. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. 11 years after the previous, The Last Wish not only acts as the long-awaited Puss in Boots sequel, but the long-needed Shrek franchise revival, with plenty of great cameos and hints towards the future ahead. Taking on a terrific pulp action-adventure style, the movie delivers another epic Puss adventure, with a fresh and stunning animation style to boot. In reviving this ailing franchise, Last Wish does tend to gear itself to very young audiences, and DreamWorks fails to take any huge narrative risks. It's a paint-by-numbers adventure like so many before. However, it's hard not to fall in love with the characters and be absolutely captivated by their timeless journey. 2. How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World. An absolutely spectacular conclusion to the franchise, Hidden World encapsulates absolutely everything that made it so fantastic. Continuing with the series' themes of growing up, this final installment brings character arcs full circle, allowing for enormous growth unlike anything seen in an animated series before. The story is also so huge, allowing for incredibly ambitious ideas, franchise best action sequences, and perhaps DreamWorks' best ever villain. While it's not as original as the first film, it comes very close to outdoing it. It's a hugely emotional finale that pays off in every way possible, with an incredible ending that's impossible to escape with dry eyes. And coming in as my #1 favourite movie of the DreamWorks new era, The Bad Guys. Taking an incredibly simplistic children's book series and expanding it into a wildly meta, riotously hilarious crime caper, The Bad Guys is a charming love letter to the heist genre and Quentin Tarantino films. Easily sporting DreamWorks' best ensemble cast for years, the film is loaded with terrific performances and insanely enjoyable characters, all of whom have great moments and one-liners. With a wealth of excellent action, terrific visual gags, a gorgeously unique animation style, and a soulful story with dozens of unpredictable twists and turns, The Bad Guys is an insanely enjoyable romp and easily DreamWorks' greatest film for a very, very long time. Also, one of the coolest, slickest animated films ever made. And at that, I'm throwing it over to you. I want to know, what is your favourite DreamWorks movie of the new era? Or what is your own personal ranking? As always, join the conversation down in the comments below. If you'd like to check out more of my DreamWorks and animation rankings, you can find them linked on your screen.